They threw you into the fire thinking you would scream. They broke your trust believing you would beg. They walked away convinced you would chase, explain, collapse. But you didn't. You stood there, burned, bruised, bleeding inside, and you said nothing. And that silence changed everything, because silence wasn't weakness. Silence was not surrender. Silence became your revenge. There was a moment, late at night, when the noise finally stopped. No voices, no accusations, no explanations left to give. Just you, and the echo of everything they did. You sat with questions clawing at your chest. Why me? Why did they betray me? Why did they think I deserved this? They thought this would be the moment you broke. They imagined tears spilling publicly, messages sent at 3 a.m., explanations demanded, apologies begged for. They were wrong because something inside you went quiet, not dead, not numb, quiet. And in that quiet, something powerful was born. They expected chaos from you. They expected emotional collapse. They expected you to fight for their validation, their attention, their mercy. They thought you would explain yourself until your voice cracked. They thought you would prove your worth to people who never deserved it. They thought you would beg them to stay, to understand, to care. But what they didn't expect was your restraint. They didn't expect you to walk away without a word. They didn't expect you to stop reacting. They didn't expect you to choose dignity over drama. Because silence is terrifying to those who thrive on control. And when you stopped feeding the fire, they started to burn. Your silence wasn't empty. It was full of storms you chose not to unleash. Every night you fought battles they never saw. Every morning you woke up carrying wounds they never acknowledged. You rebuilt yourself in places no one was allowed to enter. Silence became your training ground. You learned how to sit with discomfort without running. You learned how to feel pain without performing it. You learned how to hold your power without explaining it. While they were busy talking about you, you were busy transforming. You turned betrayal into discipline, loneliness into clarity, loss into self-respect. They thought silence meant defeat. But silence was strategy. You were no longer reacting. You were recalibrating. Like fire under pressure turning coal into diamond, you hardened, you sharpened, you rose. And that's when they noticed. Not because you said anything, but because you didn't. They felt the absence of your reaction like a missing limb. No arguments, no emotional outbursts, no explanations to twist. Confusion crept in. Why isn't you responding? Why aren't you fighting back? Why does it feel like they've moved on without me? Your silence haunted them. Because people who manipulate need noise. They need reactions. They need proof they still matter. And when you gave them nothing, they felt everything. Your calm unsettled them. Your peace provoked them. Your indifference terrified them. Did they really think you would stay broken? Silence became your shield. You stopped explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stopped chasing closure from those who created the wound. You stopped shrinking to make others comfortable. And in that stillness, you discovered something dangerous. Peace. Not the fragile kind, the kind forged through suffering, the kind that doesn't flinch when names are mentioned, the kind that doesn't shake when memories surface, the kind that doesn't need revenge because it has mastery. They expected anger, they expected bitterness, they expected revenge in loud, destructive ways. But you chose something far more powerful. You chose growth. You built a life they could no longer access, a mind they could no longer manipulate, a heart they could no longer reach. Your silence wasn't passive, it was intentional. You became untouchable. There is nothing more threatening than someone who knows their worth and says nothing. You didn't announce your healing. You didn't broadcast your glow-up. You didn't warn them of your transformation. You let them discover it too late. They saw it in your posture, in your boundaries, in the way you no longer lingered. You stopped explaining because you no longer needed approval. You stopped arguing because you no longer needed to be right. You stopped chasing because you had arrived. And that silence, it echoed louder than any words ever could. Now look at you, unbothered, unshaken, unapologetically at peace. You didn't win by destroying them. You won by outgrowing them. You didn't scream your strength. You embodied it. They still talk. They still replay. They still wonder. And you live. Silence became your revenge, not because it hurt them, but because it healed you. Let them misunderstand. Let them assume. Let them talk. You know who you are now. Silence didn't make you weak. Silence made you powerful. And that power, that quiet, unshakable power, belongs to you. They didn't realize what your silence was doing to you. While they were waiting for a reaction, you were learning restraint. While they expected weakness, you were mastering control. Silence taught you discipline. It taught you how to breathe through rage, how to sit with pain without letting it poison you, how to walk away without dragging the past behind you. You stopped explaining yourself to ears that never wanted truth. You stopped proving your worth to people who benefited from doubting it. You stopped lowering your standards just to keep broken connections alive. And slowly, quietly, you changed. Your silence sharpened your focus. Your distance strengthened your mind. Your restraint rewired your soul. They mistook your calm for emptiness. They mistook your patience for fear. They mistook your silence for defeat. But silence was you choosing growth over chaos. It was you choosing dignity over drama. It was you choosing yourself, finally. Now when they look at you, they feel it, not anger, not hatred, absence. An absence they can't fill, a presence they can't reach anymore. You don't chase closure. You don't seek validation. You don't replay old wounds, because the loudest statement you ever made was the moment you stopped speaking. Silence didn't just protect you, it elevated you. And that's the kind of revenge no apology, no argument, and no explanation could ever match. Silence did not make you invisible, it made you unreadable. And unreadable people are dangerous because they cannot be controlled, predicted, or manipulated. While they searched for signs of weakness, you were building depth. While they waited for your breakdown, you were learning patience. You learned that not every battle deserves your voice, and not every insult deserves a reply. Some victories are earned by walking away with your head high and your heart guarded. Your silence became selective. You spoke only when it mattered. You listened more than you explained. You observed patterns, intentions, and truths hidden beneath words. And in that awareness, you gained something they never expected: clarity. Clarity about who deserves access to you and who does not. Clarity about what drains you and what strengthens you. Clarity about the cost of letting the wrong people stay. They thought your distance meant you were hurting. They assumed your quiet meant you were still affected. But distance was your discipline. Silence was your boundary. You were no longer available for chaos, confusion, or emotional theft. You had learned the art of preservation. Now when they remember you, it is not with power, but with curiosity. Not with control, but with regret. Because the version of you they once knew is gone, replaced by someone calmer, sharper, and far more self-aware. Someone who no longer reacts, but responds. Someone who does not explain, but decides. You didn't become cold. You became clear. You didn't lose your heart. You learned how to protect it, and that protection, earned through silence, restraint, and growth, became your greatest strength. Because the strongest people do not need to be loud. They let their absence speak. Now when they look at you, they feel it. Not anger, not hatred, absence. An absence they can't fill. A presence they can't reach anymore. You don't chase closure. You don't seek validation. You don't replay old wounds. Because the loudest statement you ever made was the moment you stopped speaking. Silence didn't just protect you. It elevated you. And that's the kind of revenge no apology, no argument, and no explanation could ever match.